Christ is black, Solomon black. Gino, stop chat your crap and feed the flock. Righteously, righteously. Who have eyes to see will see. Who have ears to hear will hear. Babylon is falling. Babylon is falling. Who have eyes to see will see. Who have ears to hear will hear. Babylon is falling. Babylon is falling.
Blitz on top of blitz, teach all of the churches. Precept upon precept, script on top of script. So the Christian dealing with we are the most true prophets. Do it with them once we kill the word, we still pushing it. Give them the bricks on top of bricks and the script on top of scripts. Works on top of works and bricks on top of bricks. Touch on the street and we never gonna quit till Babylon fall down. People them a catch fits.
Who have eyes to see will see. Who have ears to hear will hear. Babylon is falling. Babylon is falling. Who have eyes to see will see. Who have ears to hear will hear. Babylon is falling. Babylon is falling.
Truth being shown, watch prophecies unfold. Rise of the prophets in their lot standing bold. Isaiah 31 and 2 not bend nor fold. List down Babylon, pull the lies at her soul. Now stray from the mission, sign and see the vision. Purple, black and gold, God level intuition. Now stand for the truth. Then you are my opposition, spiritual genocide is a quick decision.
Who have eyes to see will see. Who have ears to hear will hear. Babylon is falling. Babylon is falling. Who have eyes to see will see. Who have ears to hear will hear. Babylon is falling. Babylon is falling.
Revolutionary with my black kings, raise up avengers that in my womb brings daughter of Sarah. Listen to my soul sings, Hebrews 4 and 12. Watch the sword swing, slice and dice. Listen to my bars, we pull out the pulse out of Babylon art. One mind with my Lord, breaking them jaws, cast down imaginations and facades.
Who have eyes to see will see. Who have ears to hear will hear. Babylon is falling. Babylon is falling. Who have eyes to see will see. Who have ears to hear will hear. Babylon is falling. Babylon is falling. The black skin no ungodly. Me wear it very proudly. Gino, me say you violate me bondi. Fire straight from your hypocrisy. Yeah, daughters of Zion, them very comely. The laws of God, it make we only separate from everybody. Saviors a rise up on the earth, Babylon a burn up. Who have eyes to see will see. Who have ears to hear will hear. Babylon is falling. Babylon is falling. Who have eyes to see will see. Who have ears to hear will hear. Babylon is falling. Babylon is falling. Who have eyes to see will see. Who have ears to hear will hear. Babylon is falling. Babylon is falling. Who have eyes to see will see. Who have ears to hear will hear. Babylon is falling.
Check, check. Hey, shalom, shalom, family, most high Christ bless. Welcome to another edition of History in the AM. Today you got Captain Emmanuel of IUIC Arkansas, and today we will begin the sub-series, The Prophets. All right? Some of you may be new to History in AM or new to IUIC in general. So, you know, just to catch everybody up to speed, I completed a sub-series titled The Kings of Israel, where we dealt with all the kings that reigned in both southern and northern kingdom during the time of the kings in the Old Testament. That's documented in 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, and 1st and 2nd Chronicles. All right, we are moving on to a new series dealing with the prophets. Now, in this series, we not going through all the books of the prophets and breaking down all the prophecies. That probably would be nice. But no, this is history in the AM. So we'll be dealing with the prophets from a biographical perspective. All right, basically going into their personal lives. All right, their origins, what tribe they from, if that information is provided, their upbringing, their occupation, the things that they went through, their trials, tribulations, achievements, accolades, so on and so forth. All right. And we're going to start with the prophet Moses. All right. That's how we're going to do it. That's who we're going to start with. All right. So this is Moses part 1. Let's open up with Ecclesiasticus chapter 44 and verse 1.
This is the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 44, verse 1. Let us now praise famous men and our fathers that begot us.
Go ahead.
The Lord has wrought great glory by them through his great power from the beginning, such as did bear rule in their kingdoms, men renowned for their power, giving counsel by their understanding, and declaring prophecies.
And what?
And declaring prophecies.
And declaring prophecies. And declaring prophecies. So our famous forefathers, the bulk of them, right, had the gift and the honor of being able to declare prophecies, meaning the Lord spoke to them and told them what to speak to the people, and they went and relayed the word of God and had scribes to document what they prophesied. All right? So that's who we're going to deal with. We're going to deal with Moses first. All right? And this will be part 1. So, first and foremost, the name Moses, all right? That means to draw out, right? To draw out of water. That's what his name means, right? So, like most of the prophets' names or Israelites' names in general, it'll be something prior to the birth or at birth or whatever the case that would signify a reason to name the child that name, right? And it would also be something that would later manifest in their life that would solidify them having that name. For example, Jacob, right? Jacob name meant supplanter because when Esau was coming out, Jacob's hand was on his heel. So they said, this is a little supplanter right here, named him Jacob. And then later in life, what did he do? He got the birthright, right? So likewise with Moses, and we're going to explain and show you how his name, how he got his name at birth and how it went to become a solidified meaning later down the line in his life, all right? But he lived approximately from 1526 BC to 1406 BC. That is the common estimated date for his lifespan. And then you have a low, what they call it, low date. Basically, if it was a little bit later in the calendar, then it would have been estimated to be 1369 BC to 1249 BC. But like I said, most scholars and historians subscribe to 1526 BC to 1406. All right? And he prophesied from 1446 BC to the day of his death. All right? So, let's open up with Zondervan, the Zondervan Bible Dictionary, page 376, dealing with Moses. I just want that first sentence. It's a powerful sentence. And mind you, all right, matter of fact, yeah, put that image on the screen for me. All right, so this is the prophet Moses. All right, the prophet Moses. Yes, he was a black man. Now, I wasn't on the schedule for this morning, so I didn't have the luxury to be able to get with the AI team and compute a lot of the images that we'll be dealing with today in the scriptures that we're going to read. That would have been nice, but it is what it is. So we're not going to have a lot of imagery. But as you can see, that's an image of our forefather Moses. All right, so y'all just going to have to listen to me and visualize. It is what it is. All right, let's open up with read that for me.
This is the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary, page 376. Moses, drawn out, born. The national hero who delivered the Israelites from Egyptian slavery, established them as an independent nation, and prepared them for entrance into Canaan.
Right, so Moses was the national hero that delivered the Israelites out of slavery. All right? So now let's go to Genesis chapter 15, verse 12. Genesis 15, verse 12. So now we ain't going to spend too much time going into the history leading up to Moses, because that's a different history topic subject, right? Our voyage into Egypt and the Egyptian captivity and all of that. The focus is Moses in his life. So we going to touch on the pertinent details of how we got to where Moses was born at, which is, well, he wasn't born, well, he was, born in Egypt. We going to get to how that came about, but we not going to spend too much time going into the history of the Egyptian captivity. All right, but just the pertinent things. All right, Genesis 15, verse 12.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 15, verse 12. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram.
Right, so Abram was one of our forefathers, right? One of the chief patriarchs, the first. I ain't gonna say the first because, of course, you got Adam, then you had Noah, right? But he was the one that the Lord made a covenant with that passed down to the 12 patriarchs, the sons of Jacob, all right? And before his name was changed to Abraham, it was Abram. So it said when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram. Go ahead.
And lo, and horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety, that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterwards shall they come out with great substance.
Now, I'm pretty sure some of y'all, before 2019 came and gone, some of y'all, y'all might have not have posted it or, whatever, but, you had it in your mind like 400 years, right? You seen a post on Facebook, some yayas, a lot of yayas would post that, that scripture that we just read, like, look, y'all, our time almost up. But this was talking about the Egyptian captivity, all right? The time that the Israelites spent in ancient Egypt. The Lord showed that to Abram in a vision before the Israelites were even conceived, all right, in terms of according to the flesh. Now let's get Acts chapter 7 and verse 6. Acts chapter 7 and verse 6. Now, and the reason why that seed had to serve that 400 years of captivity was judgment for what that seed had done aforetime, because that's how that works. right? So before, they were the sons of Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, and they were the Israelites. Before that, before Abram, they were the sons of God. When you read Genesis chapter 6, and when they were the sons of God, they went the hell off, right? And intermingled with the nations. And that provoked God to wrath. So that is why Abram's seed had to come back and serve that punishment from the Lord. But again, that's another class. So now, Acts chapter 7 and verse 6.
Acts chapter 7, verse 6. And God spake on this wise, that his seed should sojourn in a strange land, and that they should bring them into bondage, and entreat them evil 400 years.
Go ahead.
And the nations to whom they shall be in bondage will I judge, said God. And after that shall they come forth and serve me in this place.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave him the covenant of circumcision.
Right. The him is Abram or Abraham, what we just read in Genesis chapter 15. It's the same history. Go ahead.
And so Abraham begot Isaac, and circumcised him the 8th day. And Isaac begot Jacob, and Jacob begot the 12 patriarchs.
Go ahead.
And the patriarchs moved with envy, sold Joseph into Egypt, but God was with him, and delivered him out of all his afflictions, and gave him favor and wisdom in the sight of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And he made him governor over Egypt and all his house.
Read.
Now there came a dearth over all the land of Egypt.
Where the dearth is a famine. So a famine arose in all the land of Egypt. So this is when Joseph was sold into slavery, ended up in Egypt, right? And he went through imprisonment, false accusation, so on and so forth. And the Lord raised him up through his gift of interpretation of dreams. The Lord eventually rose him up into a position of high authority in Egypt. He was basically Pharaoh without the title. Pharaoh just had the title, but Joseph was the one calling the shots in Egypt, right? So when the Lord positioned him in that position, he sent a famine over all the land of Egypt. And what?
And Canaan.
And Canaan, and that's where Jacob and his sons were living. That's where Joseph was originally from. Go ahead.
And great affliction. And our fathers found no sustenance.
Sustenance. Say it again.
Sustenance.
Thank you. 3 syllables. Sustenance. So our forefathers didn't have nothing to eat. Go ahead.
But when Jacob heard that there was corn in Egypt, he sent out our fathers first. And at the second time, Joseph was made known to his brethren. And Joseph's kindred was made known unto Pharaoh.
Read.
Then sent Joseph and called his father Jacob to him, and all his kindreds, 75 souls.
So the history, of course, is in detail in Genesis chapters 37 all the way through 50 on how, just the whole story about Joseph and the brothers coming and not recognizing them and not recognizing him at first and all of that. And we going to kind of touch on it dealing with another point later on. But that whole history is in detail in Genesis chapter 37 on down. All right. So what Stephen doing is he's prophesying. He basically summarizing our history. All right. Go ahead.
Verse 15. So Jacob went down into Egypt and died, he and our fathers.
Come on.
And were carried over into Shechem and laid in the sepulchre that Abraham bought for a sum of money of the sons of Emor, the father of Shechem. But when the time of the promise drew nigh.
When the what?
When the time of the promise drew nigh.
Read verse 6 again.
Verse 6. And God spake on this wise, that his seed should sojourn in a strange land, and that they should bring them into bondage, and entreat them evil 400 years.
So believe it or not, brothers and sisters, that was a promise. When the Lord showed Abram that vision, when he fell into that deep sleep, you know how people be like, this ain't no threat, this is a promise. That's what the Lord did. That's the Lord told Abram, this is what I'm going to do to your seed. They going to serve, they going to go in a strange land and serve them 400 years. They going to be treated evil and serve this nation 400 years, right? So it was all fine and dandy when our forefathers originally came into Egypt. Joseph had that high position, right? And we dwelt in Goshen. We had our own little section. We was good. But then the time of the promise drew nigh for us to be treated evil and enslaved in that land. Go ahead.
Which God has sworn to Abraham.
Uh-huh.
The people grew and multiplied in Egypt.
Read.
Till another king arose, which knew not Joseph.
Right, till another king arose which knew not Joseph. And we're going to deal with that as far as the particulars. Now, dealing with this history, right, is hard to hit the nail on the head because the Bible don't get too specific, right? But we know it was a Ramses, but it was multiple Ramses. But like I said, we're going to deal with it later on, right? But it basically went from, it was a change of dynasties. So nearing the birth of Moses, it was transitioning into what is known as the new kingdom, right? So that's what this is going into. Go ahead.
Verse 19, the same dealt subtly with our kindred.
Right, so this new king, this new Pharaoh dealt subtly with our kindred. Read.
And evil entreated our fathers.
Just like the Lord promised to Abraham. Go ahead.
So that they cast out their young children, to the end they might not live.
Right, so that's a part of the evil that the Pharaoh entreated our people. He cast out their young children to the end they might not live. Now, again, it's another class, but Revelation 11 and 8 tell you that this land is spiritual Egypt. That's a part of that, right? That is from the time of slavery, of course, all the way up to the early 1900s with eugenics, all the way to this day. You understand, with the Planned Parenthood. Their objective is to stop the reproduction of the Israelites at the womb, especially of the male child. You understand? That is a component of them being spiritual Egypt. That's what Egypt did to prevent the rise of an Israelite leader that would rouse the people up to overthrow them. That was their fear, right? Go ahead.
Verse 20, in which time Moses was born.
So this is the time that Moses was born. So like most leaders, most revolutionaries, they are born during a turbulent time, born and or raised during a turbulent time. Moses was born during this turbulent time. All right? Go ahead.
And was exceeding fair, and nourished up in his father's house 3 months.
So now let's go to Exodus chapter 1 and verse 7 to the actual account of this history. Exodus chapter 1 verse 7.
Exodus chapter 1 verse 7. And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them.
Mm-hmm.
Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph.
Read.
And he said unto his people, behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, let us deal wisely with them.
So this was only within about 32 years. The amount of children that the 12 patriarchs was able to produce, and they children, within that time span, put the new Pharaoh in great fear. He said, come on, let us deal wisely with them. Go ahead.
Lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war. They join also unto our enemies, and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land.
Right. So let us deal wisely with them. Right. So the dealing wisely was what we're about to read. Watch this.
Therefore they did set over them taskmasters, to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses.
Right. So what they did was they afflicted the Israelites and put them in a servile position. So that's dealing wisely with the people. And this is another class as well, right? Now, Esau took it to another level. They went deeper into the depths of Satan with it. But slavery within itself is very psychological, right? You have, like, for those of us that may not be too studied in the historical aspect of slavery, but you may be from the ghetto and you may have known some pimps and hoes. What is a tactic of a pimp to get their woman to unconditionally submit to him? He breaks the hoe. That's the terminology. You got to break a bee, right? So that's what the oppressors do to the nation that they're enslaving as a whole. That's a part of dealing wisely. You have to break them, right, to where they unconditionally submit unto you. They always feel inferior, and if anything, they not gonna have the wherewithal to rise up against you, because they're gonna be enemies amongst themselves. You're gonna cause them to be divided amongst themselves and have internal barriers that will prevent them from ever being a threat to you. And they will basically perpetually be servile, right? That is basically the goal of all those that enslave people, right? So that was the dealing wisely with them. They afflicted them with burdens and made them build for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses. That is known as the Valley of the Kings, right? The Israelites built that. We built pyramids. Yes, we did. You understand? That's why our forefathers, the Northern Kingdom, when they came to this side of the world, well, that's why you have those artifacts and relics, and you still got pyramids up to this day in Central America and so on and so forth, because our forefathers were those people. We were those slaves, right? Matter of fact, I'm going to prove it in a second, but read on.
Verse 12, but the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew, and they were grieved because of the children of Israel.
So even with that dealing wisely and enslaving us, that did not that did not slow down a reproduction that put them in fear in the first place. So they was grieved. Pharaoh was grieved, like, damn. Right? Go ahead.
And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor.
Go ahead.
And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage, in mortar and in brick, and in all manner of service in the field.
Right, so they put us in the field to work the field. Same thing Esau did. Again, that's why this is known as spiritual Egypt. Go ahead.
All their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor.
Right. So, to put it in layman's terms, go to Judah chapter 5, verse 10. Because a Christian will avoid using this terminology, right? So you won't connect the dots and tie the Israelite heritage to the so-called African American heritage. You understand? Read what you got.
Judah chapter 5, verse 10.
Read.
But when a famine covered all the land of Canaan, they went down into Egypt.
Right, our forefathers went down into Egypt. Read.
And sojourned there, while they were nourished and became there a great multitude, so that one could not number their nation.
Read.
Therefore the king of Egypt rose up against them.
So, like we just read, we started to multiply, right? Before we wasn't treated evil, and that new king that knew not Joseph, he saw that and became fearful and evil and treated us. Read it again.
Therefore, the king of Egypt rose up against them and dealt subtly with them and brought them low with
And did what?
and brought them low with laboring in brick and made them slaves.
And made them what?
And made them slaves.
And made them slaves. The Egyptians put the Israelites in slavery. That's what the word Egypt means, because that land was actually called Mizraim. But they got the name Egypt, which comes from the Greek word Egyptos, which means bondage, because they put the Israelites in slavery. All right, now give me this screenshot of this book. So I want y'all to understand. It's dots, it's 2 and 2 together. It's all type of mathematical equations that align with this Bible to show us that we are the people of the book. We are the Israelites that the Bible speaks of. Put that on the screen for me. All right. So it says, Morton pointed out that both cranial and archaeological evidence showed that the Egyptians were not Negroes. Now, that does not mean that the Egyptians were not dark-skinned. We're going to read that in a second as well. So it's not saying that the Egyptians wasn't dark. It's saying that they're not the black people in America today. The black people in America don't descend from those ancient Egyptians, right? Pharaoh and them. So it says cranial and archaeological evidence showed that the Egyptians were not Negroes, as abolitionists and colonizationists had maintained, and that in fact blacks had been relegated to the same servile position in ancient Egypt as in modern America. So guess what? We had archaeological and cranial remains and all of that in Egypt that linked us back to the slaves that were in Egypt that we're reading about in Exodus chapter 1, who were the Israelites. You understand? So that's basically what they said, but they didn't want to say in fact, the Israelites are the, you understand? But that's what they said. The Israelites that was in slavery in Egypt, they are the Negroes in America today, and Hispanics and Native Americans. All right? So now, let's go back to Exodus chapter 1. So they put us in slavery. They gave us the whore bondage, but we kept multiplying. All right? So Exodus chapter 1, verse 15.
Exodus chapter 1, verse 15. And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of the one was Shiphrah, and the name Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puah. And he said, when ye do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew woman, and see them upon the stool, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. But the midwives feared God, and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive.
Right. So the midwives, they was, Israelites, and they understood and believed and feared God. So no, we're not killing these male children like Pharaoh is commanding us to do. So they operated in faith, right? Because fear and faith go together in terms of the Lord, and they saved the men children alive. Watch this.
Verse 18, and the king of Egypt called for the midwives, and said unto them, why have ye done this thing, and have saved the men children alive? And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for they are lively, and are delivered ere the midwives come in unto them.
Right. So the certain way that they had to kill the men children, right? They pleaded the case to Pharaoh that they were unable to do it the way that he instructed them, because before they could even get to the baby, the Hebrew woman would pop the male baby out. You understand? And they wouldn't be able to find it. So it's like, hey, these Hebrew women, they more livelier. You know, they birth, they pop them out quicker than the Egyptian women. You know what I'm saying? They got blessed super wombs. And it's funny, you know, saying that, because I did a class or whatever, and I went into one of the I guess illnesses or plagues that we deal with as a people is a serious infant mortality rate. Black women are now more likely to have birth complications and deaths at birth between them and the baby, right? And that is a result of what I mentioned earlier, eugenics, right? The hyper-sterilization of our people that has been occurring here since the 1920s. I mean, you know, ain't no telling since when, but chemically, biologically, whatever the case may be, Esau has put many things into our people literally by way of injection, as well as, you know, through the different sneaky ways and avenues in our community. You know, when it comes to the convenience stores and the things on those shelves and the different things that they push and propagate for us to consume, right? They have, you know, perpetuated that effort of destroying the black woman's womb, let alone, right, the Planned Parenthood in the community and the influence of, you know, basically the encouragement of utilizing those Planned Parenthood buildings, right? But even through all of that, with all the drill music, with all the, you know, the documentaries and portraying us as savages and you slide, I slide, we slide, when you stop until all of us die and all of that, we still multiplying. With niggas dying, niggas killing each other every day in Memphis, every day in Chicago, every day in New Orleans. But yet, these are still majority black major cities. You understand? So, this is indeed spiritual Egypt. All right? But anyway, read on.
Verse 20. Therefore God dwelt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed very mighty.
Go ahead.
And it came to pass, because the midwives feared God, that he made them houses.
Right. So guess what, brothers and sisters? And we're going to have to remember this. Right now, we got it easy. The Lord is basically giving us free course to preach the gospel, to sow all the seeds and bringing them in and seal the people with the law. But eventually, and pretty soon, right? And that's on God's clock, right? That could be 5 months, it could be 5 years, it could be 10 years. But pretty soon, we're gonna start going through the many various excruciating trials of our forefathers in terms of persecution. And you women are going to be faced with situations like this. Kill them babies. And you're going to have to say, no, I believe God. I'm not going to kill the baby. And I'm going to think of a wise way to be able to get out of not having to kill our babies. You understand? We're going to have to be defiant in some cases. We're going to have to deal wisely in some cases, right? Like Paul had to do with his situation. Agrippa, I wish You know what I'm saying? I wish you was like me, except for these chains and shackles. You understand? It is what it is. Some situations we gonna have to just, hey, Maccabees. Hey, look, white man, you gonna die in the spirit. You can kill me in this flesh. It is what it is. And I ain't tripping. Some cases, you gonna have to, speak some smooth words, right? It's, in that day, the Lord gonna put his words in your mouth. But only if you faithful. You understand? If you fearful and unbelieving, you shaky, and you deny him, you got that fight or flight, whatever, and you're not, the word of God is not at the forefront of your mind in terms of applying during that trial, you're gonna fall. You're not gonna endure to the end. So we gotta prepare our mind. That's why we read the history. That's why we study the history, to prepare our souls for those same temptations, because we are the same people. All right? What verse I was at?
Verse 22.
Verse 22. Yeah, read 22.
Verse 22. And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born ye shall cast into the river, and every daughter ye shall save alive.
Right. So now, since he couldn't stop the women from popping the male babies out, and he couldn't get the midwives to kill the babies, he said, all right, this is what y'all do. When they had the male babies, throw the male babies in the river. Again, a white man, he take, things deeper in terms of the depths of Satan. But remember, they threw our babies in the water to catch alligators. You understand? But again, just further, further components of spiritual Egypt. So now we're going to go to Exodus chapter 2. So I'm going to speed up, y'all. I'm still, it's real early. It's real early in the morning, y'all. It is what it is. We ain't in the Eastern time zone. The sun is still not out at all in the central. You understand? It is 4 in the morning still. We ain't hit the 5 time yet. All right? So bear with me. I'm still getting the engine revved up. I'm a little rusty too. All right? It is what it is. So, all right. Exodus chapter 2, verse 1.
Exodus chapter 2, verse 1.
Come on.
And there went a man of the house of Levi, and took a wife of a daughter of Levi.
Right. So there went a man of the house of Levi and took the wife, a daughter of Levi. Right. So if you didn't know what tribe Moses was from, you're reading about it right now. The mighty tribe of Levi. Go ahead. And all praise to the Most High. This to the Lord. Because Levi right now is the shaking of the head of the whole United States. Those that watch the news, right? You familiar with what's going on in Ohio with all them Haitian immigrants? Bruh, police pulling up Haitian women in people's front yards eating live cats. What the hell? Levi bugged the hell out. For real, you got Judah sitting up here protesting, like, man, send them niggas back there. And that's prophetic, Malachi chapter 2. That's another class though. But originally, historically, right, Levi was the most distinguished tribe out of the 12 tribes of Israel. Believe it or not, yes, they were the priests, right? So this was the line that Moses came from. So shout out to the tribe of Levi. I'm saying all that. It's a high possibility that I'm a Levite. A lot of Levites were brought to the New Orleans, Louisiana port. It is what it is. You understand? So, hey, it is what it is. All right? So I ain't ashamed of it at all. Moses my favorite forefather. All right? I might be of his stock. So I ain't tripping. You know what I'm saying? If you Haitian, you Haitian. If I'm Levi, I'm Levi. There's two different things. All right? But where we at? Verse 2.
Verse 2. And the woman conceived and bare a son. And when she saw him that he was a goodly child, she hid him 3 months.
Right. So when his mother saw that he was a goodly child, he was fair. He had a glow. It was something about this baby. He was not a normal baby. When she saw this, she like, nah, this baby special. This baby different. She hid this baby 3 months. All right? Give me Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 23. Hebrews 11 and 23.
Hebrews chapter 11, verse 23. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months of his parents, because they saw he was a proper child.
Right. So by faith, his parents did that. They saw that he was a goodly child, and they perceived that their God had plans for him, and they could not fulfill Pharaoh's commandment. Watch this.
And they were not afraid of the king's commandments.
So hey, we not gonna let cause you know some Jake, they so whipped out of any faith at all. As soon as they get a order from the oppressor, they in 1,000% compliance, no hesitation. Oh, I'm sorry. Throw the baby in a damn cannonball in the Nile River. You understand? But his parents from the tribe of Levi, they feared God. They had faith in God. So they said, no, we're not listening to Pharaoh's commandment. We're going to hide this baby. God got plans for this baby. You understand? So he was born during a turbulent time, but of faithful origin, right? Give me that real quick. Sirach chapter 1 in verse 14. Sirach 1 verse 14. Watch this.
The book of Sirach, chapter 1, verse 14.
To
fear the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and it was created with the faithful in the womb.
It was what?
Created with the faithful in the womb.
So the fear of the Lord was created with the faithful in the womb. All right? So now, watch this. Go to 2 Maccabees chapter 6. Just a couple of more accounts of our forefathers. Like I said, this is how you know it's going to be a trial for us to come, because this happened like a ring. When you read 2nd Ezra chapter 5, it was like a ring. This trial came back around and back around, and there was certain variations to it. Nevertheless, it was the trial of the parents, in particular the mother, right? Majority of the time, having to make a decision. The oppressor want me to kill this baby or not circumcise this baby, and I either do what the king say out of fear for him, or I not do what the king say out of fear for God. You understand? And guess what? That came with fleshly ramifications, but if you were faithful, you understood that it was heavenly rewards. All right? 2 Maccabees chapter 6, verse 9.
2 Maccabees chapter 6, verse 9.
Go ahead.
And whoso would not conform themselves to the manner of the Gentiles.
And one of the manners of the Gentiles were leaving your children uncircumcised. That was one of the manners of the Gentiles. Why? Because they were just filthy in nature. You understand? Now, no offense to you brothers who your mama left you like that for whatever reason. You understand? And you came unto this day having to go through that throughout your life, having to, the extra elements of cleansing yourself or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is, right? But, yes, that is filth. You understand? And that was one of the manners of the Gentiles. So if you would not conform to that manner of leaving your child uncircumcised amongst many other things, read.
Should be put to death.
You was put to death. Read.
Then might a man have seen the present misery.
Right. So now he's going to go into some examples. Read.
For there were 2 women brought who had circumcised their children, whom when they had openly led round about the
So they circumcised their children contrary to the commandment of the king, which was to leave your children uncircumcised. So it says that when they got caught circumcising their children because they feared God, they had openly led round about they were openly led round about the city. Go ahead.
the babes hanging at their breasts. They cast them down headlong from the wall.
So the white man threw our foremothers down a high wall with the baby on their breasts. While the babies that they were supposed to leave uncircumcised were breastfeeding, they would cast headlong down the wall, meaning they fell and crushed and died, them and their baby. And I'm telling you, a lot of you destroyed, weave wearing, skin bleaching. And you might not even be skin bleaching. You could just be ambi soaping, but you know what you're doing. It's ambi, ain't it? Yeah. You know what you're doing. A lot of you Americanized the wives of Lot with, cause in your mind, you love your baby. I ain't finna, me and my baby, I ain't finna, you go into that preservation mode or whatever, but not understanding that you're supposed to fear God and love God more than your baby. And it's either God gonna deliver you in your baby for you doing the will of God, or you just get you and your baby get back in y'all heavenly bodies real quick. You understand that the Lord gave you until he send y'all back. You understand? That's what our faithful foremothers understood that. And we gonna be tried. Some of y'all gonna survive. God gonna deliver you and your child. Some of y'all gonna have to die. You understand? And guess what? Precious is the death of the saints in the sight of the Lord. He receiving you as a burnt offering. That's a sweet savor to him. That ain't a bad thing. For you to go chill in paradise with the Lord until it's time for his return. You got to believe that, though. You got to believe that. All right, that's what Christ asked Martha, believest thou this? Now, Matthew 2. So what we just read about was during the time of the Greeks. Now we're going to go to the even more wickedly advanced white man, which it's really the same. Herod was a descendant of those Greeks, those Amalekites. All right? That's who they were. Malachi chapter 2, verse 13. I mean, you know what I mean.
Matthew chapter 2, verse 13.
Go ahead.
And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise, and take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I bring thee word. For Herod will seek the young child to destroy him.
And it's funny because when you watch this. Read Luke 1 and 5. Luke 1 and 5. And this history is the same history that Revelation 12 is talking about, but it described what it just said about Herod the king, the Idumean ruler, which was a so-called Caucasian. It described him as the red dragon, who was later in that chapter. It said that that red dragon was called the devil and Satan. And I don't know. Right? It's so many different ways you could go in this history, man. I'm telling you. But we trying to stick to Moses. But I'm just giving examples of the turbulent, throughout the scriptures, it was the same type of turbulent times of birth for very significant figures. All right? Where I tell you to go?
Luke chapter 1, verse 5. There were in the days of Herod, the king of Judea.
The what?
The king of Judea.
So Herod was the king of Judea, but he was a white boy, right? So go back to Matthew chapter 2, read verse 1.
Matthew chapter 2, verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
Now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king.
The king of Judea, read.
Behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, where is he that is born king of the Jews?
Where is he that is born king of the Jews? Wait a minute. Herod was the king of the Jews. Nope. So the people knew that these imposters, they don't belong on that seat. They don't belong on that throne. So how do you think that man Herod feel? Keep read.
For we have seen his star in the east, and are come to worship him.
Watch this.
When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled.
He was what?
He was troubled.
Now, if Herod was a good, white Christian boy, or, God-fearing, why would he be upset at the king of the Jews, the Messiah, the Savior of the world, being born? Why would that trouble him? Because he understood, his race understood, the world understood at that time that the Messiah born unto the Israelites was not coming to die for and save everybody. Some people, really all other nations, but especially that one that Herod descended from, whenever the king of the Jews was born, whenever that Messiah was born unto Israel, they ass was in trouble. Trouble. Y'all remember Players Club? Trouble. You understand? He knew that. So now that's why, read Matthew 2, verse 13. So he caught that same spirit that Egyptian Pharaoh caught. Fear. Read verse 13 again.
Matthew chapter 2, verse 13. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, arise, and take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I bring thee word. For Herod will seek the young child to destroy him.
So guess what? Ironically, Joseph and Mary had to take Jesus and flee into Egypt. And that's another thing. Matter of fact, when was I going to get that? Okay, I got the Zonovan way down. Anyway, so they had to flee into Egypt to hide and blend in, right? And because Herod wanted to kill Jesus, he wanted to kill the young child. Now, let's see, as we read on, we're going to see the measures that he went to ensure the murder of the coming Messiah of Israel. Watch this. Read on.
Verse 14. When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night and departed into Egypt, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken of the Lord by the prophet, saying, out of Egypt have I called my son. Then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceedingly wroth, and sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem.
He slew all the children that were in Bethlehem. So the same way that Pharaoh reacted when the midwives told him, hey, the Hebrew women, they popping them out. We can't kill them when they come out. Throw them in the water then. Same spirit. Read on.
And in all the coasts thereof, from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men.
Right, so Herod went on a killing spree of all the babies 2 years and under, right? So we got a movie about that, Joseph's Dream. Check it out. It's on IUIC TV. All right, subscribe. Buy that thing. Matter of fact, it's a website, right? Matthew213.com, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Matthew213.com. So, where we at? Go back to Exodus chapter 2. So, and that was the Son of God. He was born during a very turbulent time, right? That's why, and we're going to get to it way later in the series, but Moses said, there shall arise a prophet which shall be like unto me. That is an element of that right there. The same type of situation at birth, turbulent situation. So where we at? Exodus 2 verse 3.
Exodus chapter 2 verse 3. And when she could not longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrush and daubed it with slime and pitch and put the child therein. And she laid it in the flags by the river brink. And his sister stood afar off to wit what would be done to him.
And his sister would be later known as Miriam, all right, his big sister. When it happened, she was watching afar off, right? Go ahead.
Verse 5. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her maiden walked along by the riverside. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on him, and said, this is one of the Hebrews' children.
Right. So the mother of Moses had faith. Like, listen, put this baby in this water, and you're going to draw him out, Lord. Right? That's what his name means, to draw out of water. So she, in faith, put him in a little basket or whatever. And she fortified it as well as she could with dabbed it with pitch, slime and pitch.
Yes, sir.
And it made it down the stream, and Pharaoh's daughter saw it, sent the maid servant to go fetch it. And when she saw this goodly, precious child, she had the same feeling, this baby is special. This is special, a Hebrew child. Go ahead.
Verse 7. Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee?
Right. So Moses' sister, right, who was watching her far off, she suggested, hey, wouldn't you like a Hebrew woman to nurse this child? Since, it's a Hebrew baby, y'all don't really know what to do with these, right? Go ahead.
And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, go. And the maid went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages.
So you see how the Lord worked? Moses' mama, right, in faith, defied the king's orders and sent her baby in a little mini ark. And the baby was discovered, right? And the Pharaoh's daughter wanted to keep the baby. And she accepted the idea of a Hebrew woman raising it. And guess who that Hebrew woman was going to be able to nurse that baby? His mama. Y'all see that? So read on.
And the woman took the child and nursed it. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son.
Right. So when Moses got up to the point where he was nursed, he was no longer needed to be breastfed. That's when he basically became Pharaoh's daughter's son. Right. She took him and raised him as a son. Go ahead.
And she called his name Moses. And she said, because I drew him out of the water.
Right, because I drew him out of the water. Right, that's what his name means. So now, let's go to Acts chapter 7. Let's read verse 20 again.
Acts chapter 7, verse 20. In which time Moses was born, and was exceeding fair, and nourished up in his father's house 3 months. And when he was cast out.
When he was cast out into the water, go ahead.
Pharaoh's daughter took him up and nourished him for her own son.
And nourished him for her own son. Now give me that Bible Atlas, page 116. I believe it's the first paragraph. It says, likely the Pharaoh. Start there.
Bible Atlas, page 116. Likely the Pharaoh of Moses' infancy was Amenhotep the first.
Right. Amenhotep. So, I forgot you was bad with names. So, remember I told y'all the Bible don't get super specific because these are insignificant people. The Lord said they less than nothing. It is what it is. Right? So, historians have to try their best to cross-reference it, you know what I'm saying, connect certain dots, whatever. So, it said that it's likely that the Pharaoh at this time of Moses' birth was Amenhotep. Did it say the first?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
And the successor who especially oppressed the Israelites was Thutmose the first.
Thutmose. The hell is this? Nigga want to be Thutmose. So it said that his successor, Thutmose, especially oppressed the Israelites. Go ahead.
Who reigned 1526 to 1512 BC. Thutmose II reigned 1512 to 1504 BC.
Go ahead.
And Thutmose III, 1504 to 1450 BC. Moses' foster mother likely was a powerful woman named Hatshepsut, who effectively...
Wait. I wish I could lay eyes on that name right now. It should be like Hatshepsut.
Hatshepsut.
I think. I don't know. I'm not looking at it. But more than likely, right, that young lady that Pharaoh's daughter that raised Moses was likely Hatshepsut. Go ahead.
Who effectively controlled Egypt while Thutmose III was still a minor after his accession to the throne.
After his ascension to the throne, right? So, all right. Go back to Acts chapter 7. So just giving some insight on this woman that raised Moses, right? Pharaoh's daughter. She was likely Hatshepsut, right? Who held it down before Thutmose III was able to take his seat on the throne. So now read that Acts 7:22.
Acts chapter 7, verse 22. And Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptian, and was mighty in word and in deed.
So this is a very important verse. And we're going to have to go back to it later in the series, but it is a common belief that Moses was a little slow in Christianity because when the Lord, like I said, we're going to get to it later in the series, but when the Lord told Moses to go do what he was sent to do, Moses was second-guessing himself because of his speech. But it wasn't because he couldn't talk good per se, right? Because look at what we just read. Read it again.
Verse 22. And Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptian, and was mighty in words and in deeds.
He was mighty in words and in deeds. He was mighty in words and in deeds. But where did he grow up? He grew up in a royal court of the Egyptians. So, when the Lord is telling him, I'm going to send you to the Israelites, and you was raised in a royal court of the Egyptians, maybe the doubt in the speech issue is not because I'm slow, I talk like Forrest Gump. It's because, language barrier, right? Because look at what Stephen said in the Holy Spirit. He said Moses was learned all the wisdom of the Egyptians and was mighty in words. So now, watch this. Go back to the Bible Atlas. And this is Holman's Quick Source, by the way. Page 115. The page before the one that we just read. And read where it say Moses appeared early. That paragraph.
Page 115. Moses appeared early in the kingdom, the new kingdom.
The
era.
what?
The new kingdom.
The new kingdom. What was known as the new kingdom. Right? If I'm not mistaken, the 19th dynasty. Go ahead.
Era. Born about 1526 BC.
Uh-huh.
His parents, Amorah and Jochebed, sought to save his life from Pharaoh's decree that all male Hebrew infants be killed by setting him adrift on the Nile in a basket. His basket came to rest at the place where a daughter of Pharaoh bathed. She took the child in and raised him as the grandson of Pharaoh, educated in the palace of Egypt. Moses received one of the finest educations in the world.
He did what?
Moses received one of the finest educations in the world.
Moses was not slow. He received one of the finest educations in the world, Craig. The hell is wrong with y'all Christians? Read on.
Learning a spectrum of languages.
Doing what?
Learning a spectrum of languages.
Learning a spectrum of language. This is why I said he was mighty in words. Read on.
And a wide variety of subject matters that prepared him well to lead and govern the Israelites after they left Egypt.
So it wasn't a mental instability or a lack of intelligence when it came to his doubts that we're going to read about later on when the Lord commissioned him to go and deliver his people from Pharaoh. But as I said, he received one of the finest educations in the world. You understand? But look at where he grew up. He did not grow up amongst his brethren in dialoguing in the dialect of his brethren. That was the issue. They not gonna listen to me or hearken unto me or whatever. They ain't seen me in 40 years for one. And it's gonna be hard. The dialect is gonna be a struggle. They ain't gonna be able to understand my speech. But like I said, we're gonna get to that later. But this precept is gonna come back. All right? It's gonna come back up. But it's a part of the stage that we're reading about, how Moses was raised. He received one of the finest educations that the world had to offer at that time. All right? Like we read about Daniel. So now, where we at? Exodus chapter 2. Now let's read verse 11.
Exodus chapter 2, verse 11. And it came to pass in those days, when Moses was grown, that he went out unto his brethren, and looked on their burdens, and he spied an Egyptian smiting a Hebrew.
Right. So Moses went out. He did not forget where he came from. He did not act like a bourgeoisie Negro. I'm a Greek now. I'm an Egyptian now. No. When he was grown, he still knew and understood and believed in who he came from and where he came from. Right? So he saw an Egyptian smiting a Hebrew. When they say an Egyptian smiting a Hebrew, this wasn't regular, work. He was pushing the envelope. He was going too far. Moses saw that his brother's life was in danger. There was abuse. There was an abuse of power at the hand of the Egyptian upon his brother. So let's see what Moses does. Read.
One of his brethren. And he looked this way and that way.
He what?
He looked this way and that way.
He trying to make sure the coast is clear. He wanna, you know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
And when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand.
So Moses thought he made sure that when no witnesses, and he caught a body. He killed the Egyptian for playing with his brother. Right? And I ain't talking about his immediate brother that he grew up with, but just knowing like this is my brother. We the same people and you oppressing him. You got to go. You understand? And he killed them, hid him in the sand. Right? So now, I'm going to show y'all Moses was in the spirit of the Lord. Because again, Christianity, not saying that all churches don't teach this one, because you got some people, we don't teach, Moses was he was all right for that. But some people make it seem like just with Jacob, right, getting that birthright out of Esau with the pottage, people be making it seem like our forefathers was in the wrong for the certain stuff that they didn't know. They was fulfilling the will of God. So, watch this. Proverbs 24, verse 11. I'll show y'all. Moses was in the spirit. Proverbs 24, verse 11.
Proverbs chapter 24, verse 11. If thou forbear to deliver them that are drawn unto death.
If thou forbear to deliver them that are drawn unto death. Meaning, you see somebody being flogged like Moses saw his brother being flogged. He saw his brother being abused to where he felt like his brother's life was in danger by the hands of the oppressor. The Lord said, if you forbear to deliver them that's drawn unto death, meaning you fall back, I ain't got nothing to do with that. Go ahead.
And those that are ready to be slain. If thou sayest, behold, we knew it not.
If you say in your mind, oh, I didn't know, when somebody asks you, hey, did you see such and such? Because imagine if the Egyptian beat that Hebrew to death. Hey, Moses, did you see? Oh, no, I don't know what you're talking about. You understand? You act like you just, it's a terminology need to be using. They hear no evil, see no evil. I guess the little monkey. I don't know. Huh? Oblivious. Yeah, you want to act oblivious because you're scared, because you're scared. Look at what the Lord said. If thou sayest, behold, we know it not. Read.
Do it not. He that pondered the heart, consider it. And he that keepeth thy soul. Do it not, he know.
Don't the Lord, he ponders your heart, your mind. He keeps your soul, the inner you. You don't think he know your ass was scared? You understand? You don't think the Lord don't know you lacked bravery in that situation? Read.
And shall not he render to every man according to his work?
Meaning what? God gonna judge you for that. If you don't intervene, you see your brother at the point of death, and you don't intervene, God gonna judge you for that. So guess what? Moses was in the right. He didn't do nothing wrong. Now, am I saying that you can go out here and slaughter anybody? I'm not saying that, but I speak for myself. I put my I put myself on the I don't know, on the list. I don't even know how to say it. But if one of my brothers is finna, something finna happen to him, I ain't finna just let it happen. God forbid, because I know what the scriptures say. That's not loving your neighbor as you love yourself. So Moses ain't do nothing wrong. Let's get that in Acts chapter 7. Acts chapter 7 and verse 23. Now, am I talking about a nigga that just robbed a bank? Esau got the choppers on him? Hell no, I knew it not. I don't got nothing to do with that. You understand? Let's get that very clear. All right? But read what you got, Acts 7 and 23.
Acts chapter 7, verse 23.
The Lord say, help not a sinner. It is what it is. Read what you got.
And when he was full 40 years old, it came into his heart to visit his brethren, the children of Israel.
Right, so these precepts were what we just read. So when it said when Moses was grown, the grown there is giving you the age of it, right? 40 years old. As a matter of fact, when you read about Joshua, it called Joshua a young man, and that's when he was at the age of 40, right? I think it's Joshua 14. So 40 and below in the Bible, 20 was the age of the man to be able to enter the army, you understand, to fight at war. So 20 was the age of a man. Younger than that, you was still a child. So if you was between 20 and 40, you was considered a young man. You understand? So Moses was still a young man, but he was 40. I know we look at it, excuse me, like shout out to Officer Titus. We look at brothers when they 40 like they old. You know what I'm saying? They probably got a couple little straight. Some people be 40 ain't got no grades. Now, granted, is some brothers, shout out to Captain Young, the mighty Captain Young, right? And other brothers, they be having grades early. You understand? But brother have a couple of gray strands or whatever. You know what I'm saying? We be calling them old heads and stuff like that. Man, when you 40, man, you still got your youth in you. If you in shape, if you eat healthy, you work out, you ain't got no problems in the chamber. You know what I'm saying? You still good at 40. You still hanging and swinging. You feel me? So Moses, he was grown, right? He was 40. Go ahead.
Verse 24. And seeing one of them suffer wrong.
So he went to visit his brethren, right? And remember, we was enslaved by the Egyptians. So this is what he saw. Read 24.
Verse 24. And seeing one of them suffer wrong, he defended him.
He what?
He defended him.
He defended him. He stepped in, like we just read in Proverbs, right? He defended his brother. Read.
And avenged him that was oppressed.
Come on.
And smote the Egyptian.
And smote the Egyptian, the heathen. Read.
For he supposed his brethren would have understood how that God by his hand would deliver them. But they understood not.
So that's a powerful scripture right there. That's how we feel. You understand? He did it. That's what for means, because he did it because he supposed his brethren would have understood how that God would have delivered them. Meaning what? The same spirit that was on brothers like Nat Turner, right? When they took a stand to avenge the wrong that was being done, the excessive violence against us in our lower state, they was operating in a spirit of faith. Like, if we take a stand for our people, maybe this is the reason why we in this condition, because we don't want to fight back. We don't want to stand up against these evil ass people that's oppressing us. So maybe if we take a stand, God will deliver us out of these conditions. But most of our people, under that sick spell of slavery and negritude, that word right there. See, that's a term I just learned that in doing research for a class I did. When you look it up, like some words they changed the meaning of it. The Negro tried to embrace it and turn it into some type of like it's, embracing the heritage of being a Black American or whatever. But the actual word negritude was conceived in a theory of basically a scientific theory as to the mental illness of Black people having an irrational desire to become white as a result of slavery. You understand? It's always too many Negroes like that under that spell of negritude. You understand that sickness, mental illness. And we finna read about that. Moses was dealing with that. Not him himself, but as far as the reaction from the brothers that you would have thought would have been right with him, that would have got riled up to join with him. No, they was under this sick mental illness. So now let's get there. Go back to Exodus chapter 2, verse 13.
Exodus chapter 2, verse 13.
Watch this.
And when he went out the second day.
Right. So the next day, after he caught the body, he went back out amongst his brethren. Read.
Behold, 2 men of the Hebrews strove together. And
so now, he don't see an Egyptian smiting a Hebrew today, right? Like he did yesterday. He see 2 Hebrews, 2 Israelites fighting each other. Like you liable to see walking at your house. If you live in a Black neighborhood, or you taking a drive past a Black, predominantly Black neighborhood, gas station, whatever the case, you might see some niggas fighting. I remember it was probably 2-3 weeks ago. I think I leaving? Yeah, I think I was leaving the school after I taught class. And I was getting some refreshments to take to my household, right? So now across from this refreshment store, the refreshment store is on this side of the road and the gas station on the other side. So as I'm checking out at the refreshment store, I'm looking out the glass door and I see a group of niggas. Now, mind you, our school here, it's not in the best neighborhood. You understand? Now, you liable to come and visit and everything will be all right. But it's not in the best neighborhood, all right? It's impoverished, all right? It's not really like a war zone, Chirac, shootouts, but it's, it's crack needles up and down the chain. It is what it is. It's impoverished. You know what I'm saying? And it's, you know how that go. But anyway, I'm looking through the glass, though. It's a group of niggas. It's a world star moment. You understand? Niggas just fighting. And, in this day and age, that don't really end well. You know what I'm saying? So, but, they got it in or whatever. They squabbled and then they went on about their business. But the point is, that's what Moses saw. He saw 2 Israelite brothers fight, right? When we all got a real enemy to be upset at, 2 people in the same conditions of oppression fight each other. Go ahead.
And he said to him that did the wrong, Wherefore smitest thou thy fellow.
Right. So he said to the aggressor in the situation, why is you laying your hands on your brother? Now, when you go back to Acts 7, we ain't got to, but it lets you know that when a brother heard Moses say that, he pushed Moses. He thrust Moses away. Like, nigga, read on.
And he said,
Uh-huh.
who made thee a prince and a judge over us?
Right, so he pushed Moses like, nigga, who the hell are you? Who made you a prince and a judge over us? Read.
Intendest thou to kill me as thou killest the Egyptian?
What you gonna do? Since I'm whooping this nigga, what you gonna kill me like you did the Egyptian? You think you big and bad? You gonna catch another body today? What's up? I'm telling you, the same spirits that we deal with today. The same evil nigga spirits. Excuse my language, but that's what it is. Yes, amongst God's chosen people, the apple of his eye, the princes of the power, yes, it's evil niggas. Niggas that ain't right. That ain't got no damn sense. Ignorant. You understand? This is what Moses had to deal with. For real. It's going into what we just read. He supposed that they would have been in the mind of joining together against the oppressor, but no, they was not on that wavelength. You understand? They was ready to get hostile with their brother who they know is about their life on behalf of them. Read.
And Moses feared and said, surely this thing is known. Now, when Pharaoh heard this thing.
So when he heard that, and when it said Moses feared, we going to get the precept. It ain't saying that he got scared. It's saying that he was like, damn, I thought I looked this way and that way and didn't nobody see me. But obviously, nigga, talking about this, if this is just amongst some regular slave niggas fighting, then there ain't no telling who knows about how far this has gotten in the knowledge of the kingdom of Egypt. You understand? So he's afraid of the fact that, you know, the body that he caught, it's, you know, they know he did it. Read.
Now, when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses.
So when Pharaoh heard about it, he wanted to kill Moses. Why? Because Pharaoh, now when you watch the movie, I think it's the Prince of Egypt, you know, they had the whole narrative that Moses grew up with this Pharaoh or whatever. Now, Moses was raised in a royal house. So it is possible or whatever, but at the end of the day, Moses was an Israelite, and he wasn't running from that, and he wasn't trying to give any other impression besides that. He did not disconnect from his heritage. Meanwhile, Pharaoh, whether he grew up with Moses or not, he's an Egyptian. So if Moses, who might have been raised by my sister, mama, auntie, whatever, he killed one of my people. So he got to be dealt with. You understand? So Pharaoh sought to slay Moses. Go ahead.
But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian, and he sat down by the well.
So now go to Hebrews 11 and 27. Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 27.
Hebrews chapter 11, verse 27. By faith, he forsook Egypt.
By what?
By faith, he forsook Egypt.
Right. So when Moses fled, it was out of faith. He knew, like, look, my God got me. I ain't do nothing wrong. You understand? My God got me. I ain't finna just let Pharaoh. No. I'm finna bounce. Read.
Not fearing the wrath of the king.
Right. It wasn't because he was just so in trembling fear of Pharaoh. Go ahead.
For he endured as seeing him who is invisible.
Right. He was faithful to the Lord. He knew the Lord was going to look out for him and preserve his life. You understand? So now, That's why he went on the run. Go back to Exodus chapter 2 and verse 16. And again, that's just like, because, for example, when you read the Gospels, you got, let me see, certain of our forefathers, they would, if they were in question or whatever the case or whatever, they just came on out like, hey, do what you gonna do. But the Lord told us, he told his disciples, when you persecuted in one city, flee into the next cities, right? So it's gonna come a time, brothers and sisters, where we gonna have to be on the run. Not because we are afraid of what man can do to us, but because we are faithful to the Lord. That's what he told us to do, and that's what has to be done in order for this gospel to continue to be spread. You understand? Even throughout that great tribulation, through that Jacob's trouble, the gospel still got to be spread. The flock still got to be fed. You understand? So, yes, we going to be on the run. I hope y'all brothers ready. You Lord asses, I don't know. You're going to have to, by faith, forsake Burger King. All right. Where we at? Verse 16.
Exodus chapter 2, verse 16.
Come on.
Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water.
So it said that Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian, which was near the Sinai desert, right? So it said he fled there and sat down by a well, right? Because, of course, you fleeing here, you want some water. So it say, now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, read.
And they came and drew water, and filled the trough to water their father's flock. And the shepherds came and drove them away.
Read. So this man, he got girls. So he sent his girls to get the water. But it was shepherds there, male shepherds. So they hogging the water. Now get y'all little girls, right? So they not letting the girls draw the water for their father. Go ahead.
But Moses stood up and helped them.
But what?
But Moses stood up and helped them.
So it's showing you the spirit of Moses. While he was still in his youth, in his, being 40, Moses, he was about that. He did not back down from nothing. You understand? It says shepherds with an S. Moses, solo, dolo. Like, hey, man, watch out. Y'all finna let these women, you know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, we not taught the Bible this way in Sunday school. You understand? That's why you got to restore the proper imagery and all of that. This is a black man that is not backing down from nothing. He got that righteous, masculine, that black male energy. You understand? Like, man, move around it. I'm telling you, this is why we got the MOV program, because not everybody that come in is like that. For real. Not everybody was cut from that cloth in the world. But these are the type of men, godly men. The perception of godly men in the world has been extremely distorted. You think godly man, you think a damn, I don't know, a Catholic priest or something, or a nigga in a tight ass 2-piece suit or something like that. But a godly man is a masculine man, right, that knows how to approach situations with solutions, able to de-escalate, to resolute, conflict resolution, peacemaker. But at the same time, not to be played with, and ready to defend himself. You understand? So now, it said, but Moses stood up and helped them, and what?
Watered their flock.
And watered their flock, right? So he made the shepherds fall back, and the sisters was able to get the water, and Moses helped them with it. Read.
And when they came to Ruel, their father, he said, how is it that ye are come so soon today?
Right. So Moses, this also shows you that he was, he had some, he was industrious or whatever. You understand? Because he was able to help them quickly. They retrieved the water faster than usual. You understand? So Moses was able to work quick with his hands. So when they came back to their father's house, he was like, damn, y'all moving fast today. Go ahead.
Verse 19. And they said, an Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us, and watered the flock.
So we read already at the beginning of this chapter that Moses was from the tribe of Levi. He was an Israelite. He was not an Egyptian. So why are they calling him an Egyptian? They said an Egyptian delivered us out of the hands of the shepherds, because he had the same skin tone as the Egyptians. And what skin tone did the Egyptians have? Give me the Zondervan Bible Dictionary. Ham. Read me what the Zondervan say about Ham. Come on.
Ham, the youngest son
What
of
page you on?
Oh, Donovan Bible Dictionary, page 213.
Come on.
Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races.
So Ham is the progenitor, forefather of the dark races, that what is known as the dark races, the nations that populate the continent of Africa. But watch this. Read.
Not the Negroes.
But not the Negro. It's a difference between the dark races, right, of Ham, that descend from Ham, and the Negro. The scholars know this, just like we read earlier. You understand? So now, dealing with Africa, right? We're reading about our earliest dwelling within the continent in the land from the land of Canaan, to which is really up there by what they call the Middle East, right? Which, historically, it's our land. You understand? But it's separated by a man-made canal, right? But on the other side of that canal, which is on the continent of Africa, in the land of Egypt, we dwelt there, right? We dwelt in that land. And from that time all the way up to this day, we had always voyaged there, whether it was willingly for the purpose of trade, or, just going astray, or through slavery, right? Through being sold. We had always circulated throughout the continent of Africa. And guess what? Just like we read in Exodus chapter 1, how we grew and multiplied and stuff like that. That's what we did throughout Africa. So the largest ethnic group in the continent of Africa is known as the Bantu people. And the Bantu people are Israelites. Now, of course, they mingle with Hamites in the land. So some of them that, hold true to the Bantu heritage might have a patrilineal, patriarchal, heritage that goes back to Hamites. But for the most part, the Bantus are Israelites, right? And that's the largest ethnic group in the continent of Africa. So don't get it twisted when I say that the Hamites are the dark races that populate the continent of Africa, am I saying that majority of Africans are Hamites? In actuality, you understand, through the process of time and the Israelites being scattered throughout Africa, we have grown and multiplied to become really a vast majority. You understand, especially in certain parts, like on the west coast of Africa and even on the east coast of Africa. A lot of people don't recall the Arab slave trade, even though it lasted 3 times longer than the transatlantic one. You understand? But hey, what do I know? But keep reading. So not the Negroes, not us, not the Israelites. Go ahead.
But the Egyptians.
But the who?
The Egyptians.
So the first Hamitic nation that it says is the Egyptians, right? So read, Ham was the progenitor of what?
Ham became the progenitor of the dark races.
Of the what?
Of the dark races.
The what?
The dark races.
So read after the comma of not the Negroes.
But the Egyptians.
So the Egyptians was a what? A dark race. That's per the white scholar. They know this. They wasn't the Negroes, but they was a dark race. You know how they say all skin folk ain't kinfolk. Yeah, you're right. So, but that's why the pre-Semidian's daughters called him an Egyptian. He was dark like one. He was black, but he was a Hebrew. So let's get some more of that. Give me Genesis 42, dealing with Joseph. I quoted it earlier, but Genesis 42, just to show that our forefathers were dark, black, like the Egyptians. Read that, 42 and 7.
Genesis chapter 42, verse 7. And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them.
Right, so Joseph was the son of Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, right? He was one of his 12 sons. It says Joseph saw his brethren and he knew them, meaning he recognized them, right? The other 11 sons of Israel, 10 before they brought Benjamin. But go ahead.
But made himself strange unto them, and spake roughly unto them.
Right, he made himself strange unto them, meaning what? He had on all that Egyptian apparel, right? And he made himself sound like an Egyptian, and he talked to them rough, as if, you know, he was not one of them. Go ahead. Like, meaning not their brother. Read.
And he said unto them, Whence come ye?
Where y'all from? Read.
And they said, From the land of Canaan, to buy food.
Come on.
And Joseph knew his brethren.
So Joseph recognized them. Read.
But they knew him not.
But they did not recognize him. So if he was their brother, they grew up with him. You understand? For 17 years, they saw this boy every single day. Few years go by, now they no longer recognize him. It's because he's the same complexion as those other people, right, in Egypt, and he's dressed like them, and he's talking like them. So he blends in with them. So if the Egyptians were a dark race and the Israelites look like the damn mice in Egypt, in the land of Israel right now, they would have very, very quickly been able to distinguish him from the Egyptians. Oh, that's Joseph, right? But no. So if the Egyptians were a dark race from Ham, and the priest of Midian's daughters called Moses, an Egyptian, and Joseph's brothers mistook him for an Egyptian, that means that we were also a dark race historically, the Israelites. All right? So now, We ain't got to get Acts 21 for the sake of time. But Paul, also the Apostle Paul from the tribe of Benjamin, he was also mistaken for an Egyptian because he was what? He was black. He was a black man from the tribe of Benjamin. So now let's go back to Exodus chapter 2. Now let's read verse 20.
Exodus chapter 2, verse 20. And he said unto his daughters, and where is he?
Right. So when his daughters told him about this Egyptian that helped them, he was like, where he at? Read.
Why is it that ye have left the man? Call him, that he may eat bread.
Right, bring him here. So you got to think this a man, he ain't got nothing but daughters, right? So, of course, and this, it say he was the priest of Midian, right? These people were a nomadic people. They moved around a lot. So it's basically a chance that majority of the places where they went, those people, sons were already appointed and arranged to marry other people or whatever the case. And he probably had a hard time, finding husbands for his daughters. So he hears an Egyptian. The Egyptians was the damn top power in the earth at the time. So wait a minute. So an Egyptian? Egyptian help y'all? Where he at? Y'all ain't invite him? Tell him come eat. Read.
Verse 21. And Moses was content to dwell with the man. And he gave Moses Zipporah, his daughter.
Right. So, of course, just like, majority of everybody else from the time of his birth, he saw Moses, he took a liking to him, and he gave, and of course it didn't happen instantly, right? But through the process of time, he gave Moses his daughter, Zipporah, to wife. All right, and this is going to come up later as well. But what are we reading right now? Moses is in refuge. He's a refugee. He had to flee because he was wanted for murder. So he's not able to pick from the litter of Israelite women, obviously, right? So, but this is another thing that's going to come up later. But anyway, so he took the brother's daughter. Go ahead.
And she bare him a son. And he called his name Gershom.
So this was his first son. He named his son Gershom. Read.
For he said, I have been a stranger in a strange land.
I have been a stranger in a strange land. So what was Moses? What was Moses? Watch this. Go to Hebrews 11 and verse 13. So many of our forefathers, right, had to go through this. This was a part of the process for a lot of the prophets. You understand? They had to go through this. That's a part of the Lord proving them. That was a part of their journey. Watch this. Read that.
Hebrews chapter 11, verse 14.
Go ahead.
For they that say such thing declare plainly that they seek a country.
Come on.
And truly, if they have been mindful of that country from whence they came out, they might have had opportunity to have returned.
Well, no, that ain't the verse I said. Hebrews 11 and 13.
13, I'm sorry. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 13. These all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off, and were persuaded of them.
Persuaded of them.
And embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth.
They confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. This is a heavy verse right here. So, for give me the definition of pilgrim first. They were strangers and they confessed they were strangers and pilgrims in the earth. Give me that real quick.
Pilgrim, first one. One who journeys in foreign lands.
One who journeys in foreign lands. When you read about Abraham here, that's all he was doing. The Lord was taking him here, there, every damn where, right? But on a surface level, as I said, a lot of our forefathers, a lot of prophets in particular, had to go through that. The Lord took them on journeys, right? But on a grander scale than that, on a heavier scale than that, when you read here, Galatians 4:26, Jerusalem which is above is the mother of us all. We were created before the foundation of the earth. You understand? The earth was made for us to dwell in it. We were already in existence, and the Lord made the earth for us to dwell in it. So, our true home, our original place of residence is not the earth. You understand? It is Jerusalem which is above, right? So, all of us, if you spiritual and you understand who you are, you truly believe and understand you are Israelite, being a son of God, a daughter of God, then you know that this experience in this earth is temporary. We don't have no place here. You understand that we're laboring to get out of here. That's why I say the New Jerusalem gonna descend out of heaven. You understand? Up on the earth, because that's our true home. We are pilgrims in this earth. That's why the Lord said, love not the world. We're not of this world. This is a sentence. You know what I'm saying? We on a little journey. That's it. So those that believed in God understood that, and they confessed themselves as strangers and pilgrims in the earth, like you just read. That's why Moses named his first son Gershom. All right? Now watch this. Go to 2nd Ezra chapter 8. 2nd Ezra chapter 8, verse 39.
2nd Ezra chapter 8, verse 39.
Go ahead.
But I will rejoice over the disposition of the righteous, and I will remember also their pilgrimage.
So this is the Lord speaking to Moses. Esdras. Read again.
Verse 39. But I will rejoice over the disposition of the righteous, and I will remember also their pilgrimage.
So the Lord is going to remember the pilgrimage of the righteous, right? And it's all of those that is called in this truth, and we keep the commandments and endure to the end. We will have endured a pilgrimage. Meaning what? Like when you read Isaiah chapter 6, we was in the heavens. The Lord say, hey, who gonna go for us? We said, I'll go. And we were put into a little baby body. You understand? You might have been a C-section baby like me. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. But you asked for that, and that was the beginning of your pilgrimage. You understand? So the Lord said, I'm going to remember their pilgrimage. Go ahead.
And the salvation.
And what?
And the salvation.
And their salvation. Read.
And the reward that they shall have.
And the reward that they shall have. Meaning what? Immortality. You understand? Redeeming the body in which you were originally created to have, that immortal body, for enduring this pilgrimage. All right. So anyway, go back to Exodus chapter 2. Now read verse 23. That right there, that's a class right there. Deacon Joshua kind of did that. With a class he did, he went over that, but it's still, it's still up for a full diving into, you know what I'm saying? That pilgrimage, that's some heavy stuff. But anyway, Exodus 2:23.
Exodus chapter 2, verse 23. And it came to pass in process of time that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel signed by reason of the bondage.
So I know we read earlier in the Home and Quick Source Bible Atlas, it kind of gave you the little lifespans of the different pharaohs during that time. But, you know, the Lord don't care about them that much, so he ain't got to get all specific. So he said in the process of time that the king of Egypt died, the one that sought to slay Moses, and the children of Israel sighed by reason of their bondage. Go ahead.
And they cried, and their cry came up unto God by reason of the bondage. And God heard their groaning. And God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. And God looked upon the children of Israel, and God had respect unto them.
God had what?
God had respect unto them.
God had respect unto the Lord. Ain't no respect on person. Shut the hell up. The Bible said God had respect unto the children of Israel. So what the hell is wrong? Why y'all got the nerve not to put respect on our name? The hell wrong with y'all? Now, what Birdman say now? If I was to pull up on you, y'all better put some respect on our name. God had respect unto the Israelites. The hell wrong with y'all? Now go to Sirach 35:13. So it said, we cry by reason of our bondage, and our cry came up to God. Read this, Sirach 35:13.
Sirach chapter 35, verse 13.
Come on.
He will not accept any person against a poor man, but will hear the prayer of the oppressed.
He will do what?
Hear the prayer of the oppressed.
God will hear the prayer of the oppressed. Go to Wisdom of Solomon chapter 4. That's why it will behoove us to pray at least 3 times a day, because that cry will make it up to God. That's how we make the time short. That's how these prophecies come to pass. The angels get activated. Our salvation draw near. For real, you sitting up there not praying. The hell wrong with you? Wisdom of Solomon 4 verse 15.
Wisdom of Solomon chapter 4 verse 15.
Come on.
This the people saw and understood it not.
Read.
Neither laid they up this in their minds, that his grace and mercy is with his saints.
Right. So the Lord, he did not, when we just read in Exodus 2, it said God remembered their groaning. He looked upon them and had respect unto them. It wasn't anything that we did in terms of righteousness that brought our that provoked the Lord to want to redeem us. You understand? Not saying that we could be wicked as hell, because that obviously provokes God to want to destroy us, right? So, but the point is that the Lord has not soft spot, right? But we are his firstborn. We are his fervent lover. So his grace and mercy is with us. You understand? In all of our affliction, he was afflicted. You understand? So his grace and mercy is with his saints, the Israelites. Go ahead.
And that he had respect.
He had what?
He had respect unto his chosen.
The Lord has respect unto his chosen. Understand that. Now go to Nehemiah 9 verse 27. So now, okay, the Israelites sighed and cried by reason of their bondage. That cry made it up to the Lord. The Lord looked upon them, had respect unto them. What is about to happen? Nehemiah 9:27.
Nehemiah chapter 9 verse 27.
Come on.
Therefore thou deliverest them into the hand of their enemies, who vexed them, and in the time of their trouble.
So now, did not the Lord deliver us into the hands of the Egyptians? Yes. Did not the Egyptians vex us? Yes. So now, in the time of our trouble and our bondage, read.
When they cried unto thee.
When they what?
When they cried unto thee.
Like we just read in Exodus 2, read.
thou heardest them from heaven.
Like we just read in Exodus 2. Go ahead.
And according to thy manifold mercies,
According to thy what?
manifold mercies,
Like we just read in Wisdom of Solomon. Go ahead.
thou gavest them savior.
That does what?
Gavest them savior.
So this is what God is going to do. The Bible is telling you the following action to him hearing the cry of the Israelites in their bondage. The Lord is going to send them a Savior. You understand? The Lord is going to send them a Savior. Go ahead.
Who saved them out of the hand of their enemies.
So now let's go to Exodus 3 verse 1.
Exodus chapter 3 verse 1.
Go ahead.
Now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law.
Now, another common thing with the men that the Lord would select to be leaders to his people, for whatever reason, they would be literal shepherds. You understand? So Moses, prior to the Lord calling him, as we're about to read, he was a shepherd. He kept the flock of his father-in-law. Go ahead.
The priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the backside of the desert and came to the mountain of God, even to Horeb.
Read.
And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of the bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burning with fire, and the bush was not consumed. And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt.
Right. So Moses like, what the hell? Let me go check this shit out. Moses, I know this is something small, right? But per se. But Moses was not a scaredy cat. He caught a body. Yeah, you understand? He went and delivered them young sisters from shepherds with an S, a group of grown men. You understand? Moses was a brave brother. So, you see a bush on fire that ain't burning, some people would think that it's, something terrifying. What the hell? You understand? Something is terribly, let me go run and scream and tell somebody, help me, right? But no, he like, let me go check this out. So he goes to the bush. Go ahead.
Verse 4. And when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called unto him out of the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Draw not nigh hither. Put off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the place whereon thou standest is holy ground.
Right. So Moses, yes, he had to literally take off his shoes. But what this means is, go to Ecclesiastes 5:1. So remember what we read in the Bible Atlas earlier and in Acts chapter 7. Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians. You understand, for 40 years, he had the finest education that the world had to offer, and that of Egypt. So when the first thing the Lord says to him, take off your shoes from your foot, what is he really saying? Read what you got.
Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 1.
Come on.
Keep thy foot when thou goest to the house of God, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools.
So that's what the Lord is really telling Moses. Listen, I'm about to instruct you. So whatever knowledge that you have, that you've obtained up to this point, is irrelevant. I'm finna give you instructions and you finna do what I tell you to do. So just be quiet and listen. So now go back to Exodus chapter 3, read verse 6.
Exodus chapter 3, verse 6. Moreover, he said, I am the God of thy father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. And the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people, which are in Egypt, and have heard their cry by reason of their taskmasters. For I know their sorrows, and I am come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land, unto a good land and a large, unto the land flowing with milk and honey.
Right, meaning with great cattle and resources and fertile ground, so on and so forth. Because I know how I used to think, a land flowing with milk and honey, waterfalls of milk and honey, literally. No. You understand? No. All right. But read on.
Unto the place of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites.
And the what?
And the Amorites.
And the Amorite. I want to pause there because this goes back to their promise. Go back to Genesis chapter 15 and verse 13. We read it. I think this is the first scripture we read. Well, besides Sirach 44. Read that.
Genesis chapter 15, verse 13. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterwards shall they come out with great substance.
Right. So now, a part of the promise, because, you know, we was reading it earlier, you might have been thinking like, damn, promise to enslave to people for 400 years? What type of promise is that? Well, at the end of that promise, they're going to be delivered and come out with great substance, right? So, read on.
Verse 15. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace. Thou shalt be buried in a good old age.
Right, but you, Abraham, you're going to die. You're going to go to your fathers in peace. Read.
But in the fourth generation.
But in the what?
But in the fourth generation.
But in the fourth generation, go ahead.
They shall come hither again.
They shall come hither, meaning your seed. They're going to come back to this land, the land of Canaan. Go ahead.
For the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full.
So he's telling you what the 400-year time span was about. Yes, it was for, like I mentioned earlier, it was judgment for what the sin that the sons of God did in Genesis 6. But it was also a time span in which the Amorites had to fulfill a certain level of wickedness for the Lord to say, like, all right, it's time for y'all to get the hell up out of this land. Y'all know it's the same case for America. The Bible, that's why it says their sins reached to heaven. It's saying the same thing, right? The iniquities of a land will reach a point to where God says, all right, this land got to go. And it always works simultaneously with the faith and obedience of the Israelites reaching a certain level. So, give me that real quick. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 12, verse 3. The iniquity of the Amorites was not yet full during the time of Abraham, but in that fourth generation of 400 years later, it would be. That's why God is telling Moses, I'm about to give my people the land of the Canaanites, Amorites, you understand, meaning their sins had reached that point. Their iniquity was full. So let's read about it. Read that.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 12, verse 3. For it was thy will to destroy by the hands of our fathers, both those old inhabitants of the holy land.
What?
Of thy holy land.
Right, the old inhabitants of thy holy land. One of those old inhabitants was the Amorites. All right, so let's see what their iniquity was. Read.
Whom thou hatest for doing most odious works of witchcrafts and wicked sacrifices, and also those merciless murderers of children and devourers of men's flesh, and the feast.
So they was cannibals. They was killing babies, sacrificing babies. Go ahead.
And the feast of blood, with their priests out of the midst of their idolatrous crew.
Read.
And the parents that killed with their own hands souls destitute of help.
Right. So they was shedding multitudes of innocent blood, sacrificing it to their devils amongst a multitude of other witchcraft, evil, just evil. Right? This is what they was doing in the land that the Lord sanctified for his people. Go ahead.
Verse 7. That the land which thou esteemest above all other might receive a worthy colony of God's children.
Right. So the land was ready to receive a worthy colony of God's children. Get these dirty ass Hamites up out of here and bring the sons of God. You understand? The Lord said it's time. All right. So go back to Exodus chapter 3. We at verse 9 now.
Exodus chapter 3, verse 9. Now therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel is come unto me, and I have also seen the oppression wherewith the Egyptians oppressed them. Come now, therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt.
So you see what he told Moses? Come now, therefore, I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. Imagine that. Some of y'all, that's exactly what the Lord did. But the Lord told this to Moses face to face, even apparently. You understand? Thou shalt deliver my people out of Egypt. Watch this. Go to Acts 7 and verse 30. The last scripture for the day.
Acts chapter 7, verse 30.
Come on.
And when 40 years was expired.
Right. So remember, he was 40 years old when he went and caught the body and ended up fleeing. So he went by the well, met the daughters of Midian, ended up being invited to the priest of Midian's house, marrying his daughter, having kids, so on and so forth. So that was another 40-year time span. So now at this point, he's 80. Go ahead.
There appeared to him in the wilderness of Mount Sinai an angel of the Lord in a flame of fire in a bush.
Right. So that's what we read in Exodus 3. So he's 80 years old and he sees this burning bush. But it's not burning. It is, but it ain't. Go ahead.
When Moses saw it, he wondered at the sight. And as he drew near to behold it, the voice of the Lord came unto him, saying, I am the God of thy father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Then Moses trembled and durst not behold.
Go ahead.
Then said the Lord to him, Put off thy shoe from thy feet.
Keep thy foot. Read.
For the place where thou standest is holy ground. I have seen the affliction of my people which is in Egypt, and I have heard their groaning, and am come down to deliver them. And now come, I will send thee into Egypt.
And now come, and I will send thee into Egypt. Go ahead.
This Moses whom they refused.
Stop. This Moses whom they refused. This is some heavy stuff. So remember, he caught the body. He went back the next day. He tried to teach his brothers to love their neighbor as themselves, and they rejected him. Nigga, who is you? And remember what they said about Christ. He is the stone which the builders refused, right? What did he come on the scene teaching? The same thing. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Same. That's again more of the Moses said, there shall arise a prophet like unto me. But anyway, this Moses whom they refused, go ahead.
Saying, who made thee a ruler and a judge?
Who made you a ruler and a judge? Who made you a ruler and a judge? That was the niggas' response to Moses trying to intervene in their feud to resolve their conflict resolution. Say, who made you a ruler and a judge? Read.
The same that God.
So this same brother that they refused, that God what?
That God sent to be a ruler and a deliverer.
Read it again.
Yes, sir. The same that God sent to be a ruler and a deliverer.
So this same brother that they refused, God sent to be a ruler and a deliverer. A ruler and a savior. Go ahead.
By the hand of the angel which appeared to him in the bush.
So, all praise to the Most High God. So next, Lord's willing, part 2. And I'm going to try to get these shorter. I've been trying to get in the hang of doing my classes at a faster pace. But when it's so early in the morning, and you know what I'm saying, you wasn't really necessarily fully prepared, you know what I'm saying, because I'm filling in. You know, it is what it is. It is what it is. It went out. The word went out. But, I'm going to try to make these classes shorter. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to try to keep it under 90 minutes. You understand? But Lord's willing, on part 2, dealing with Moses, we going to get into, the first, him dealing with the Lord and trying to, but I can't, they not going to hear me, and blah, blah, blah. And the Lord giving them Aaron to help him out. And, we going to get into, we ain't finna be a 10-plague breakdown, but, we going to, of course, go over it, right? And our deliverance out of the land of Egypt that Moses led, right? In the spirit of the Lord. So, Lord's willing, that be part 2, all right? So, what y'all need to do, scan that real quick. You know what I'm saying? Donate to the Booster Club because, right, we strangers and pilgrims in the earth. And we got to go everywhere to teach our people they not of this world. You understand? They God shows them people. They got to repent so they can be saved when the Lord returns to destroy this world, right? So help us out by donating to the Booster Club. We done made it easy for y'all. Just scan that QR code, donate a little something, all right? Whatever is on your heart to give. All right, and make sure y'all subscribe to IUIC Arkansas. All right, subscribe to IUIC Arkansas. All right, but all praise to the Most High God. Lord's willing, y'all was edified today. Like I said, it'd be hard not to go fully into some whole other, this some heavy stuff dealing with Moses. I knew it was gonna, cause this is my favorite forefather too. So I knew it was gonna be hard just really getting through. But it is what it is. All praise to the Most High God. Those willing, y'all have a prosperous remainder of the day. Shalom, Most High Christ bless.
He opened the seventh seal and there was silence in heaven. I saw an angel stand at the altar. We praying for violence from heaven. The incense smoke mixed with our prayers. What a delightful smell. Golden censer, golden altar, call it Raphael. Yeah, he opened the seventh seal and there was silence in heaven. I saw an angel stand at the altar. We praying for violence from heaven. The incense smoke mixed with our prayers. What a delightful smell.